Eliam Ndlovu grew up in a world where success came early and stayed with him like a loyal shadow. At 27, he was already one of the youngest millionaires in West Africa. His businesses stretched across borders. His name appeared in magazines, and people spoke about him the way they spoke about legends. Cars, houses, influence, he had everything. But inside his home, behind all the wealth and noise, lived one quiet truth. His mother could not walk. Her name was Mara Ndlovu, a gentle woman with warm eyes, a soft voice, and legs that had failed her years ago after a terrible fall. Eliam carried her everywhere, pushed her wheelchair through gardens, fed her when she was too weak, and listened to her stories every night. The world saw him as powerful, but Mara saw the boy who prayed for her healing when he thought no one was watching. And she always told him the same lesson. My son, a real wife is not found through gold. She is found through kindness. Eliam heard those words again and again, but the world around him never matched his mother's wisdom. Women approached him with perfect smiles, but all of them had the same interest: his money. They asked about his companies before asking about his dreams. They talked about his houses before talking about his heart. Every woman who wanted him wanted the life he provided, not the person he was. He tried to ignore the patterns. He tried to believe someone would come with honesty. But the more he searched, the clearer it became. No one wanted Eliam. Everyone wanted the millionaire. His mother noticed his frustration. One night, as he sat beside her wheelchair, she touched his hand and said, "Love built on money collapses when money falls. Find a heart that stands even when wealth disappears." Eliam looked at her, and something inside him hardened. His mother had spent her entire life teaching him that honesty mattered more than comfort. She had raised him alone after his father died, working tirelessly even with her weak legs. Everything good inside him came from her. He wanted to honor her. He wanted to bring her the daughter-in-law she could trust, a woman who would love her son even if he had nothing. That night, Eliam made a decision that changed the course of his life. A decision that shocked even him. If he could not find honesty as a millionaire, he would search for it as a beggar. But not for himself. For his mother. She deserved a daughter with a real heart. He stared at her sleeping face. Tired, peaceful, beautiful in the simple way mothers are, and he whispered quietly, "I'll find her, Mama. I promise." The next morning before sunrise, Eliam prepared for a life no one expected him to choose. He left his mansion quietly. No security, no expensive clothes, no watch worth thousands. He took an old pair of trousers, a faded shirt, and worn shoes that once belonged to his childhood. He stuffed a small backpack with nothing important, just enough to survive a few days. He looked at his mother one last time before leaving. She slept in her wheelchair, blanket pulled to her chest. She had no idea what her son was about to do. Eliam leaned down, kissed her forehead, and walked out of their home with a heart both heavy and determined. The city was still waking up when Eliam arrived at a crowded marketplace miles away from his wealthy district. Here nobody knew him. Nobody cared who he was. And that was exactly what he needed. He found a quiet spot against a cracked concrete wall near a street full of vendors, taxis, and people rushing to work. He sat down slowly, adjusting the old clothes on his body. His hands felt strange without the weight of a luxury watch. His pockets felt strangely light. For years, crowds moved around him as if he were a star or a target. But today he was invisible. He sat there from early morning to afternoon. Cars passed. Children ran. Vendors shouted. Life moved. But no one looked at him. No one stopped. No one cared. America loved dramatic stories, but reality rarely matched the movies. The truth was simple. The world didn't slow down for someone who looked poor. People who had never met his eyes before now avoided them. Some glanced at him quickly, then turned away with embarrassment. Others passed with cold indifference. A few whispered insults about lazy men on the streets. Eliam didn't react. This was the honesty he was searching for. He wanted to see how people treated someone who had nothing to offer them. Hours passed, and hunger began burning in his stomach. It wasn't the hunger of poverty. It was the hunger of realization. This was the world he had never experienced, the world his wealth had always protected him from. He felt the sting of being ignored, misunderstood, invisible. And yet he stayed. He wasn't here for comfort. He was here for truth. By late afternoon, the sun was harsh, and sweat gathered on his neck. He shifted his position, exhausted but stubborn. He hadn't eaten since morning. His throat felt dry. His back ached from sitting against the rough wall. He thought about his mother's legs, how she endured pain every day without complaint. She could live through that, he could live through this. Just as he lowered his head, thinking the day would end without a single act of kindness, someone stepped into his shadow. Woman. Young. Soft-featured. Tired but steady. Her name, though he didn't know it yet, was Eliam. She wore a simple green dress, the kind a hard-working woman buys to last many months. She carried a small brown paper bag, her dinner after a long shift at a tailoring shop. Sweat lined her forehead, but her eyes were warm. She paused, looking at Eliam quietly. Not with fear, pity, or disgust. Just with the calm observation of someone who still had humanity intact. Eliam braced himself for her to walk away. But she didn't. She opened her paper bag, took out a small loaf of bread. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, just something she worked hard to afford. She tore it in half and extended the larger piece to him. "You look hungry," she said softly. "Take it." No dramatic music. No theatrical kindness. Just a simple act that came straight from the heart. Eliam froze. He had met hundreds of people with money. Thousands with ambition. Many with charm. But only a handful with true compassion. Leah had nothing, yet she shared the little she had. He took the bread slowly. His voice locked in his throat. Leah didn't wait for thanks. She didn't ask questions. She didn't care who he was, why he was there, or whether he deserved the food. She simply smiled, a small, exhausted smile, and began to walk away. But Eliam spoke, his voice low. "Why did you help me?" He turned back. "Because hunger hurts," she replied. "And no one deserves to feel it." Then she walked off. Eliam stared at the bread in his hands, and his chest tightened. This woman had shown more sincerity in 30 seconds than any woman he had met in 3 years. For the first time since he left home, Eliam felt something powerful. Hope, real, pure, honest hope. He didn't know her story. He didn't know her life. He didn't even know her name yet. But he knew this. If his mother ever met this woman, she would smile. Because this simple act of kindness was exactly the kind of heart she wanted for her son. Eliam didn't move. He sat on the dusty street, staring at the half-eaten bread in his hands. Every fiber in his body screamed that this woman, Leah, was different. Not because of what she gave, but because of why she gave it. The city around him kept moving. Cars honked. Children laughed. Vendors shouted. But Eliam only saw her leaving, her back straight despite her exhaustion. Her head held high despite the hardships that were obvious in the curve of her shoulders. He felt a strange pull in his chest. He had never felt this before. It was more than attraction. It was respect. It was recognition of something rare. And he knew what he had to do next. He would return tomorrow. And the day after that. He would remain as he was, unnoticed, invisible, until he learned more about her. Not for himself. For his mother. He imagined Mara's face. Her gentle eyes. Her constant prayers for his happiness. The way she always said, "My son, wealth is nothing if your heart finds no rest." Eliam clenched his fists. He would find a woman who could love not the millionaire, but the man. A woman his mother could trust without question. The next morning Eliam returned. Same spot. Same dusty wall. Same old clothes. But he felt different. The bread yesterday had changed something inside him. Hours passed. People ignored him. Some shouted. Some spat. Some threw coins. Then Leah appeared. She had a basket this time, filled with fresh vegetables she had bought for her little sister at home. Her arms were strong from carrying heavy loads all day. Her eyes were tired, but there was warmth in them. She smiled. Not at him. Not as a greeting. Not because of who he was. But because it was natural for her to notice someone in need. Eliam stayed silent. He didn't speak. He just watched her move. He watched her care for people around her, helping an elderly man cross the street, returning a dropped coin to a child, adjusting the bag of a struggling vendor. Everything she did, small gestures, nothing flashy, made his heart tighten. She had the honesty his mother prayed he would find. She had the goodness his mother deserved to see in a daughter-in-law. Days turned into a week. Eliam returned each morning. He never spoke of who he was. He never revealed his wealth. He stayed as the beggar, watching, learning, understanding Leah. She never asked for anything in return. She never pretended to care because he was visible to the world. She simply cared naturally, purely. Eliam began to imagine introducing her to his mother. Mara, who had sacrificed so much, who had endured pain silently, who had taught him the value of an honest heart. She would approve of Leah instantly. That thought filled him with warmth. He could almost see his mother's smile in his mind. And for the first time in years, Eliam felt truly at peace. One afternoon, a sudden rainstorm hit the city. People scattered, running for cover. Eliam sat under a small awning, shivering slightly. Leah ran toward him, shielding herself with a worn umbrella. She saw him and laughed softly. "Why do you stay out here in the rain?" she asked, shaking water from her hair. Eliam only shrugged. "Waiting," he said simply. Leah rolled her eyes. "You're crazy," she said. But then, without hesitation, she sat beside him and shared her umbrella. He noticed how natural she was. How easy it felt to be near her. How impossible it would be to fake this kind of honesty. In that moment, Eliam knew one thing. He could endure anything for this woman. Not for wealth. Not for pride. Not even for love alone. But for the peace his mother would feel if she knew Leah's heart. The days went on. Rain or shine, Eliam stayed. He learned her schedule, her favorite streets, her kindnesses to strangers. He watched her never complain, never expect, never lie. And each night he returned home to Mara. He told her small, innocent stories of the city, avoiding the truth about Leah. But Mara noticed the change in him. She said softly, "Your heart is lighter, my son. Who is making it so?" Eliam smiled quietly, knowing that soon, his mother would meet the woman who could love him honestly. The woman who could honor the sacrifices Mara had made. The woman whose heart was unbroken by greed or pretense. Eliam didn't answer Mara that night. He only smiled and kissed her forehead. Her eyes closed in trust, unaware of the storm of plans forming in his mind. The next morning he returned to the streets. Same dusty corner. Same worn clothes. Same hunger gnawing at him. Leah appeared again, carrying a small bag of vegetables. She waved at a child, helped an old man lift his crate, and then noticed him. She offered a small nod, no words needed. Eliam felt a surge of relief. She remembered him. She recognized him, even as a beggar. Days passed, each one teaching him more. He learned her routines, her struggles, her laughter and her tears. Eliam never spoke of who he was. He never revealed the wealth that could have won her attention instantly. He wanted to see pure heart, pure choice. And each evening he returned to Mara. He told small stories about people in the streets. About kindness and cruelty, laughter and pain. He left out Leah. Yet Mara noticed the light in him. She would say softly, "My son, someone is touching your soul." Eliam would only smile. One day his mother would meet her. And Mara would see, as he did, the woman who deserved his heart. One afternoon, a sudden heat wave struck the city. People collapsed in the streets. Vendors covered their produce. Children fanned themselves. Leah appeared, carrying 2 small bottles of water. She handed one to a dehydrated man, then another to Eliam without hesitation. "Here," she said simply. "No one should go thirsty." Eliam accepted it, his hand brushing hers. Her touch was brief, but it carried honesty. No expectation, no pretense, nothing but truth. He watched her move through the streets, helping silently, never asking for thanks, never seeking attention. That evening he returned home to Mara. He told her about the man he had seen thirsty in the street, about the small kindness of a stranger. Mara smiled knowingly. "Your heart is finding its mirror, my son," she said. Eliam only nodded, imagining Leah's face and the moment his mother would meet her. The days stretched into weeks. Eliam remained in disguise, learning everything he could about Leah. He saw how she treated children, the elderly, vendors, even strangers who ignored her. Everything she did confirmed what he had suspected. She was rare. She was honest. She was good. And for Mara, he knew she would be perfect. But Eliam also realized something else. The city was full of challenges. People were cruel when they sensed weakness. And his disguise, though necessary, put him at risk. Yet he did not care. Every hardship he endured, every insult, every hunger pang, it was worth it. Because when his mother met Leah, she would know that Eliam had found what she had prayed for all these years, a heart that could never be bought. Eliam continued his days on the street, silent, patient, observing. Leah never asked for his story. She never demanded explanations. She simply helped, shared, and smiled in small, quiet ways. Each night he returned to Mara. He told small, innocent stories of the city, avoiding the truth about Leah. But Mara noticed the change in him. She said softly, "Your heart is lighter, my son. Who is making it so?" Eliam smiled quietly, knowing that soon his mother would meet the woman who could love him honestly. The woman who could honor the sacrifices Mara had made. The woman whose heart was unbroken by greed or pretense. Finally the day came. He invited Leah to his home under the pretense of showing her a job opportunity. She entered the mansion hesitantly, eyes wide at the luxury surrounding her. But she did not falter. She did not judge. She walked with grace and honesty, exactly as she had on the streets. Mara was waiting in the living room, her smile warm, her eyes shining. "Leah," Eliam said softly. "This is my mother, Mara. The one who raised me, the one I live for." Leah knelt instinctively, respectful and humble. Mara reached out, touched her hand, and immediately saw the heart she had prayed for. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Her voice trembled. "You are exactly the woman my son deserves." Eliam stepped forward, no longer hiding. Clean clothes, confident stance, wealth surrounding him. Leah froze for a heartbeat. Her eyes widened. "I am Eliam Ndlovu," he said gently. "The same man you met on the street. The same man you helped without knowing who I was. I did this, not for me but for my mother. I needed to see your heart." Leah blinked, silent, her honesty holding firm. She smiled softly, understanding everything without words. Eliam knelt beside Mara, taking Leah's hand in his. "This is a new life," he said. "One built on truth, honesty, and love, not money. My mother and I see your heart, Leah. And we are blessed." Leah's eyes filled with tears, but she did not flinch. She had loved him for who he was, not the wealth he could offer. Mara embraced them both. Her voice shook with joy. "My son, you have found what I prayed for. A heart as honest as your own." Eliam felt peace he had never known. All the days of disguise, hunger, and waiting had led to this moment. He looked at Leah, then at Mara, and finally smiled at himself. He had risked everything. He had hidden everything. But in the end, honesty and love had won. And for the first time in years, Eliam Ndlovu, the millionaire, knew that true wealth had nothing to do with money. It had everything to do with the heart.